Well, friends, pour yourself a hot cup of cocoa because it's time for the holiday edition of the Summit Racing Casual Friday video series. So today we're talking about our favorite holiday movies and TV specials, or more specifically, the vehicles in them. Because there are a ton of cool rides in these holiday classics. Some are front and center, while others are kind of hiding in plain sight. Hopefully you'll see some interesting picks in the list and maybe some of your favorite ones too. So let's all grab a fresh heaping bowl of figgy pudding and dive right in. Okay, we're getting the obvious one out of the way here first. Honestly, we could have listed this one 10 times and still be content because the Olds here is not just a cool car, it's an integral part of the plot. After all, it was the basis for the O Fudge scene. But the real reason it makes the list here is due to the relationship between the car and the old man, played by Darren McGavin. If you've ever had your morning commute sidelined by car trouble, then the old man is someone you can easily sympathize with. And we've all probably woven a tapestry of obscenities because of that too. Oh, and one more thing. Our pals at the All in All Cylinders blog actually interviewed the former owner of the famed Christmas Story house, along with one of the Oldsmobiles used in the movie. We'll toss a link in the description if you want to check that out later. We like obscure under-the-radar Christmas movies around here, and perhaps one of our favorite in that category is Gremlins. In fact, when we first meet the V-dub, it's accompanied by Darlene Love's "Christmas Baby Please Come Home" on the radio, and much like the old man in the Christmas Story, Billy is trying to start the temperamental bug in the freezing cold weather. After that, the Volkswagen makes occasional appearances throughout the movie and even helps the heroes initiate a dramatic escape towards the end too. Sure, a Kentucky Harvester may be a good tractor, but if we're being chased by little green monsters, we'll take the Beetle all day. Now, in contrast to Gremlins, White Christmas might be the most well-known holiday movie of all time. But no offense to Bing Crosby, Danny Kaye, or Rosemary Clooney, we think the biggest star of the movie is a trusty Jeep. Sure, we catch a glimpse of a few army Jeeps in the opening scenes of war-torn Europe, but what really makes us smile is how, after returning to Vermont, General Waverly still relies on a Jeep to transport himself around his ski lodge, like an old, loyal friend. Though it doesn't play a major role in the film like the Oldsmobile or the V-dub earlier, the Jeep does get a solid amount of screen time as a scenery piece for a lot of the exterior shots, so keep an eye out for it. We're not entirely sure, but it looks like a military-issue Willys MB or Ford GPW as opposed to a civilian CJ2A. Jeep experts, if you know for sure, well, let us know in the comments. Look, we will never, ever miss an opportunity to talk about the Tim Burton-era Batmobile, but it's really easy for us to make our case here. That's because with all the on-screen action, it's easy to overlook the fact that the Batman follow-up, Batman Returns, is indeed a Christmas movie. And better still, in addition to introducing us to Michelle Pfeiffer as Catwoman, the film gave the Batmobile some new tricks too, namely when it shrinks down into the super narrow Bat missile to escape. We also see some other nifty stuff like an extending outrigger to trip up villains, and a rotating pedestal mount to help the Batmobile do a quick U-turn in a narrow alley. So yeah, Batman Returns. Merry Christmas, Gotham City. If there was ever a Christmas soundtrack that could give Charlie Brown and Vince Guaraldi a run for their money, it'd be the Snowman. Based on the famed children's book of the same name, it was adapted by the BBC into a 30-minute cartoon with a complete symphonic underscore. The show is about a snowman that comes to life, and after he's done exploring around the house, he quickly hops on a vintage kickstart Brit bike and begins scrambling through the English countryside. While it's tough to put a positive ID on the specific bike model, it's clearly drawn with inspiration from all the classic British makes, namely Triumph, BSA, and Royal Enfield. Though it only appears on screen for a few minutes, it's an endearing and memorable trip, accented by some fantastic original music. It's worth checking out if you haven't seen it yet. We're actually astonished more people aren't familiar with this holiday classic. Starring Bill Murray and featuring a solid cast that includes Buddy Hackett, Karen Allen, and Bobcat Goldthwait, this contemporary take on Charles Dickens' Christmas Carol features our second favorite time-traveling car ever. That's not the best part. This iconic checker cab is driven by the famous character within a character, Buster Poindexter. Yep, it zips around the streets and floors of New York City, crossing the time-space continuum in the process. Toss in some quick one-liners, Frankie Angel, and it's easy to see why this one ranks so highly on our list. This one gets the nod here simply due to the clever way Frank Capra uses it as a subtle plot device within the film. When George's friends go to college, when the building and loan establishes Bailey Park, When Harry Bailey saves the troop transport, the Dodge is always there. Never changing, but always dependable and reliable, just like George Bailey. Heck, the only blemish on the Dodge's resume is when George rams it into a tree moments before he steps onto the bridge to begin his path to redemption. Sure, Clarence may have gotten his wings, but we hope the trusty Dodge got a pair too. Okay, we know this one is technically a Thanksgiving movie, but after witnessing what this poor K car endures throughout the film, we had to include it. And as much as we like the Plymouth GTX and Tommy Boy, credit goes to the humble Chrysler LeBaron for doing it first and perhaps best. Like many vehicles we've talked about, the ragtop plays an integral role in the plot and spawns several memorable scenes in the process. In fact, we can't listen to Ray Charles' Boogie Woogie hit Mess Around without picturing John Candy struggling with his coat as he's driving down the highway. It's also said that the LeBaron's green paint and wood grain sides were nods to the Wagon Queen family truckster from National Lampoon's Vacation, an earlier John Hughes film. This one was a toss-up between two solid choices. Sure, we could have gone with a tree-toting family truckster 2.0 at the beginning of the film, but we just think that Cousin Eddie's tenement on wheels looks so much better parked in the driveway. From chemical toilets to abetting a kidnapping, this classic Ford camper plays a major role in the film, and together with Lewis's stogie, it was the catalyst for the movie's climax too. So it's totally worth trading a worm farm for. And it would have totally locked in the #1 slot on this list too if another vehicle hadn't rumbled onto the scene a few years ago. Remember, this was a list of our 10 favorite vehicles, and that certainly includes a 3,000 horsepower, 400-ton steam locomotive, doesn't it? Yep, we've alluded to some vehicles on this list as being integral to the plot, but here, the Polar Express is the plot, encompassing a vast majority of both the book and the movie it hatched. Though the Polar Express is a fictional steam engine, it was heavily inspired by a real locomotive, the Père Marquette 1225. Retired from service in the 1950s, the 1225 was saved from the scrapyards of central Michigan and, thanks to the popularity of both the book and the film, has since been restored to operating condition. So yeah, you can hop on board and ride on the real Polar Express today, as long as you believe. So, agree with our top 10 list here? Did we end up on the naughty list by overlooking something important? Go ahead, tell us we're humbugs in the comments section, and in the meantime, be sure to like and subscribe so you don't miss our next Casual Fridays feature on the Summit Racing YouTube channel.